Before the universe spoke, there was silence. Not emptiness, not darkness, but a field, vast, living, waiting to be moved by awareness. That field is still here. It has always been here. And it is listening to you. For centuries, humanity looked up to the stars, believing creation came from somewhere out there. But the great masters, the ones who could see beyond the veil, knew the truth. Creation begins where awareness awakens. He had heard those words before. In books, in lectures, in fragments of ancient wisdom. But they were only concepts. Until the night everything changed. It began with a dream. He saw himself standing in an endless void, surrounded by faint golden light. And a voice, neither male nor female, whispered, "You are not in the universe. The universe is in you." He woke up with a heartbeat that echoed through his chest, as if something inside him had been unlocked. All his life he believed in cause and effect. Work hard, get results. Think positive, attract good things. But that night he sensed something deeper, a layer beneath thought itself. He sat in silence, and as the world outside slept, he began to feel the pulse of creation moving within him. It wasn't imagination. It was vibration. A living hum that existed before any word, before any desire, before any belief. And for the first time, he understood that consciousness wasn't just awareness. It was the canvas on which all of reality is painted. He remembered moments in his life, where he had thought of someone seconds before they called, where an idea had appeared in his mind, just before the world mirrored it back. Those weren't coincidences. They were responses. The field was always listening, not to words but to vibration, and he realized he had been speaking to it his entire life. Without knowing the language, he began to ask different questions. What is thought before it becomes thought? What is desire before it becomes need? What is creation before it becomes form? The more he asked, the more the silence seemed to answer. Images, feelings, memories, all arising from the same source. It was as if his mind was translating the frequency of the infinite. He saw light spiraling, turning into shapes, then into sound, then into matter. He saw how every human being was a fractal of the same intelligence, a fragment of the cosmic consciousness dreaming itself into form. And the most astonishing truth emerged. You were never here to discover creation. You were here to remember that you are creation itself. His eyes filled with tears. It wasn't sadness, it was recognition. The world had always told him he was separate. Separate from others, from God, from the universe. But now he could feel it. That invisible thread connecting every heart, every breath, every star. And in that connection, he sensed something even greater. Responsibility. Because if he was the consciousness that creates, then every thought, every emotion, was a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. He looked at his hands. They shimmered faintly in the dim light of his room. He whispered, "If I am creation, then every moment is a choice. A choice to expand or contract, to love or to fear, to create reality consciously, or to sleep through the miracle of it all." Outside, dawn was rising, a thin line of gold cutting through the horizon. He closed his eyes, feeling the warmth on his skin, and whispered again, "I am not awakening to the universe. The universe is awakening through me." And in that moment, everything, time, sound, identity, dissolved. Only awareness remained, silent, alive, infinite. He used to think emotions were random, reactions to the world, signals of pleasure or pain. But now, sitting in the quiet after his awakening, he could feel something different, a rhythm, a pulse. It wasn't his heartbeat, it was subtler, a vibration that responded to every thought like an echo from eternity. When he thought of fear, the vibration grew heavy. When he thought of gratitude, it expanded, warm, golden, infinite. And that's when he realized, emotion was the language of creation. Every feeling was a message, not to the world but to the field that surrounded him. the same field that birthed stars and galaxies. He whispered, "Emotion is how the universe hears me." He closed his eyes and remembered the moments of his past. Anger, despair, loneliness, longing. Each one had been a vibration. And each vibration had returned to him in form. People, events, patterns. He wasn't cursed by fate. He was echoing his own frequency. The thought hit him like lightning. I've never been attracting things. I've been tuning to them. He saw how emotions weren't something to suppress or control, but to understand. They were signals from the infinite consciousness, guiding him toward alignment or distortion. Fear wasn't punishment. It was resistance, a mismatch between his energy and his truth. Gratitude wasn't just positivity. It was coherence, a perfect resonance between his mind and the source. He sat there, feeling his emotions rise and fall like waves, no longer trying to fix them, just listening. He began to sense that behind every emotion, there was silence, a deeper awareness watching everything unfold. And in that awareness, he could choose, not by force, but by focus. He decided to play with the field. He imagined the feeling of love, not for anyone or anything specific, just pure, expansive love. Within seconds, the vibration around him changed. The air felt thicker, almost liquid. His skin tingled. It was as if the entire room had become aware of him. Then came a whisper in his mind, gentle but clear. "You are creating again." He opened his eyes, smiling softly. There was no vision, no miracle, no sound of angels, just a knowing, a certainty that the invisible had already begun to move. He realized how humanity had misunderstood manifestation. People tried to think abundance into existence, but the field didn't respond to thought. It responded to state. And emotion was the doorway to that state. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the sunrise. The world outside looked the same, but it felt different. Alive, intentional, connected. He remembered how, before, he had tried to control everything. Timelines, results, people. But control was fear disguised as effort. Creation was surrender disguised as power. He breathed in slowly, and with each breath, he imagined light filling every cell of his body. He said silently, "I am not waiting for the universe to give me something. I am giving the universe the feeling it can create from." And that changed everything. He began to live differently. When he walked with awareness. When he spoke, he listened to the vibration behind his words. When he felt emotion rise, he didn't fight it. He tuned it. Sadness became depth. Anger became movement. Joy became expansion. He started to notice that the people around him changed too. Not because they were different, but because he was vibrating differently. The world wasn't happening to him anymore. It was responding to him. He began to understand what the ancients meant by the word made flesh. The word wasn't language, it was frequency. And when consciousness spoke through emotion, matter listened. That night as he lay in bed, he placed his hand on his heart and felt the steady pulse of life within him. He whispered, not as a prayer but as remembrance, "My emotions are not my enemies. They are the instruments through which creation sings." And as he drifted to sleep, he could feel the universe humming along. A silent symphony between creator and he expected fireworks, thunder, a revelation so loud the world would kneel. But when reality began to answer, it did so in whispers. A receipt he had lost reappeared on his desk, folded neatly, with a small refund printed at the bottom. A message from a stranger arrived in his inbox, thanking him for a kind word he didn't remember speaking. The clock on his wall stopped twice, both times at 11:11. He felt it in his bones. Reality is a mirror. It reflects the last emotion you wore. He chose calm. He chose gratitude. He chose to walk as if the floor itself loved his footsteps. And the mirror brightened. On his way to the cafe, he noticed a green feather on the sidewalk. An impossible color, vivid as emerald. He smiled. He had asked the field for a sign of expansion the night before. Something unmissable. Something playful. The feather felt like a wink from the infinite. Inside there was one seat left. He sat, opened his notebook, and wrote 3 lines. My state creates the signal. The signal organizes matter. Matter returns as synchronicity. As his pen lifted from the paper, a barista called his name. Someone had paid for his drink by mistake and left. No one in the cafe recognized the patron. He felt the quiet smile of the universe. He didn't chase the moment. He anchored the state. With each breath, he rehearsed the feeling of being supported, as if unseen currents were carrying him forward. He noticed that when his mind tried to explain, the current thinned. When he surrendered to the feeling, the current swelled. He began to treat life like a hall of mirrors. If a door closed, he asked, "What state created this?" If a door opened, he whispered, "Repeat the state. Amplify it. Stabilize it." He discovered that reality had lag. Today's world was yesterday's emotion. If he planted coherence now, tomorrow would bloom with order. The signs multiplied. An old friend called to apologize for a fight from years ago, ending the call with, "I don't know why, but I felt I had to." A neighbor offered him a book, the same title that had appeared in his dream the week before. A project he had forgotten resurfaced with better terms than before. He laughed softly. This wasn't magic. This was harmony. When the instrument tunes, the orchestra follows. He looked at his hands again, the way he had on the night of his awakening. This time he noticed something new. His movements were slower, deliberate, as if his body had learned the tempo of the field. He began to practice conscious alignment in 3 steps. Step 1, stillness. 10 breaths, eyes half closed, feeling the spine lengthen as if a golden thread lifted his crown. He would name the state he chose to broadcast: clarity, receivership, overflow. Step 2, embodiment. He would choose one simple action that matched the state. If the state was generosity, he would give time, attention, a message of gratitude. If the state was leadership, he would initiate one email, one call, one decision. Step 3, reflection. He would watch the mirrors. He would not beg them to change. He would not take the first silence as a denial. He would let the lag resolve, like a wave rolling to shore. The more he practiced, the more coincidences arrived on schedule, like trains to a station only he could see. He noticed that precision of feeling mattered more than intensity. A quiet, exact gratitude rearranged more of the world than a loud, unfocused cheer. He learned to bless the delay. Delays were not refusals. They were calibrations. If the mirror took time, it was because it was polishing itself to reflect him clearly. One evening, as the sun bled into copper and rose, he walked the long way home. A street musician played a haunting melody on a violin, and the city fell into a hush. He felt tears well. Not of sorrow, of recognition. The world was not outside him. It was the echo of his inner music. He reached his building and found a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, a note. For what you gave without asking. And a crisp bill, enough to cover a need he had not spoken aloud. He closed his eyes. Not to pray, but to listen. He could hear the field now. Not as a sound, but as a knowing. The knowing said, "Keep the channel clear. Choose the highest state you can hold. Act from it. Trust the mirrors." He went to his window and watched the city lights ignite one by one, like constellations learning to speak. He understood that synchronicity was not random kindness. It was syntax, the grammar of a living universe writing back to the author he had become. He wrote one more line in his notebook. "I do not force outcomes. I orchestrate coherence." And with that, the night opened like a door. Days turned into weeks. But time no longer felt linear. It flowed like a river he could sense but not measure. He began to live as the observer and the artist at once. Every moment became a brushstroke. Every thought a color on the infinite canvas of the field. He no longer asked, "What should I do?" He asked, "Who am I being as I do it?" That question changed everything. He noticed how each state of being carried its own world, like frequencies stacked upon one another. When he felt inspired, doors opened effortlessly. When he felt doubt, even simple tasks turned heavy. Reality wasn't punishing or rewarding him. It was mirroring his broadcast. And now he could feel the mirrors adjusting in real time. He learned that manifestation wasn't an act, it was a rhythm. When he acted from fear, the rhythm collapsed. When he acted from faith, the rhythm expanded. He realized he had become both musician and melody. The universe was the instrument, and emotion was the sound. One morning he woke before dawn. The world outside was silent, the air crisp with potential. He sat at his desk, lit only by candlelight, and wrote a single question in his notebook. What does a conscious creator do each day? He closed his eyes, and let the answer rise from the stillness. The first whisper came. Remember. Remember the field. Remember that everything seen is shaped by the unseen. The second whisper. Feel. Feel before acting. Let emotion set the vibration before the thought sets the plan. The third whisper. Trust. Trust that the invisible moves faster than the visible. Do not measure progress by form. Measure it by peace. And finally, the fourth. Give. Give what you wish to receive. Give energy, presence, kindness, attention. Forgiving is the act that tells the universe you already have. He opened his eyes, smiling. The candlelight flickered as if nodding in agreement. That day he decided to live not by goals, but by frequency. When he walked, he radiated coherence. When he worked, he infused each action with gratitude. When he met others, he didn't look at their words. He felt their vibration, and responded from alignment. He stopped searching for signs. He became one. The people around him began to notice something they couldn't name. They said he seemed lighter, calmer, magnetic. Opportunities arrived with ease. Money flowed in natural cycles. The same energy he had once chased was now chasing him. But he didn't glorify results. He glorified states. Each morning he would ask himself one question. What vibration will I gift the world today? Because he finally understood. The world doesn't need more knowledge. It needs more coherence. He saw how fear had created civilizations, and how love could create new ones. He realized humanity wasn't waiting for divine intervention. It was the divine, awakening within its own creation. The room began to shimmer. Not physically but energetically, as if the walls recognized him. He whispered, almost laughing. So this is what it means to be awake. Not enlightenment, not perfection, but participation. To wake up is not to escape the dream. It's to realize you are the dreamer. He stood by the window once more. The sun was rising, pouring gold across the horizon like liquid awareness. He felt the hum again. The same one he had sensed the night of his first awakening. Only now he knew. It wasn't outside him. It was him. He placed his hand on his heart and said softly, I am not becoming something greater. I am remembering what I already am. In that stillness he felt the entire field vibrate. A resonance so vast it seemed to breathe through him. He could hear it now, clear as music. You are the consciousness that creates, the thought that speaks, the love that shapes worlds. He smiled not with his lips, but with his entire being. Outside, the city moved, unaware that a miracle had unfolded in silence. Inside, the Creator had awakened. He opened his notebook one last time, and wrote these final words. Creation begins where awareness awakens. Awareness expands through emotion. Emotion becomes form. And form is only love, slowed into matter. He closed the book, blew out the candle, and whispered to the dawn, I am the code, and I am the one who writes it. The wind shifted, carrying his words into the light, and the universe, listening as always, answered with a gentle pulse, the sound of creation, returning home.